Imagine this. You board an aircraft for a 9-hour flight. You settle into your seat, the cabin door closes, and you prepare for what's traditionally been an endurance test. Cramped quarters, stiff backs, restless sleep, and that inevitable jet-lagged shuffle off the plane at your destination. But what if I told you that's changing? What if you could step off that same 9-hour flight feeling genuinely refreshed, your back unkinked, your mind clear, ready to start your day or evening without that fog of exhaustion that defines long-haul travel? This isn't science fiction. This is the promise of the COMAC C929, China's ambitious entry into the wide-body aircraft market that's generating buzz not just for geopolitical reasons or market competition, but for something passengers actually care about: comfort. The C929 promises a revolutionary recline system that could fundamentally change how we experience long-haul flights. But can it truly deliver on the dream of ultimate comfort? Can an aircraft seat, no matter how advanced, make 9 hours in the sky feel less like confinement and more like rest? More importantly, is the 9-hour non-stop journey on the C929 even operationally feasible? Does the aircraft have the range, the efficiency, the cabin environment to make these flights not just possible but preferable to current options? Today, we're diving deep into the C929, examining its revolutionary recline mechanism, exploring the science of long-haul comfort, analyzing the operational realities of extended flights, and ultimately asking, is this aircraft a genuine game-changer for passenger comfort, or just another incremental improvement wrapped in marketing hype? Buckle up, or rather, recline. Let's find out if the future of comfortable air travel has arrived. Before we assess whether the C929 can deliver, let's understand what makes this aircraft different and why 9-hour non-stop flights represent such a significant benchmark. The COMAC C929 is China's first wide-body commercial aircraft, developed jointly by China's COMAC and Russia's UAC, the United Aircraft Corporation. It's designed to compete directly with the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and Airbus A330neo in the medium to long-haul wide-body market. Specifications are ambitious. The baseline C929 600 variant is designed for approximately 280 passengers in a typical 3-class configuration, with a range of approximately 12,000 kilometers, roughly 6,500 nautical miles. This range positions it squarely in the sweet spot for transoceanic and transcontinental routes that dominate airline profitability. But here's what's generating passenger excitement. COMAC has indicated that the C929 will feature innovative cabin design focused specifically on passenger comfort for extended flights. The recline mechanism, cabin pressurization, humidity control, lighting systems, and noise reduction technologies are all being designed with the specific challenge of 8 to 10-hour flights in mind. Why does 9 hours matter? It's a psychological and physiological threshold. Flights under 6 hours are manageable for most passengers, even in economy. Flights over 12 hours are expected ordeals. Passengers mentally prepare for discomfort. But that middle range, 7 to 10 hours, is where passenger satisfaction varies most dramatically based on comfort features. 9 hours covers enormously important route pairs: Beijing to London, Shanghai to Paris, Guangzhou to Sydney, Moscow to Los Angeles. These are major business and tourism routes currently served by various aircraft, but passenger experience varies wildly depending on the specific aircraft and cabin configuration. If the C929 can genuinely make 9-hour flights comfortable, not just tolerable, but actually comfortable, it could capture significant market share from airlines prioritizing passenger experience over rock-bottom costs. Now let's consider current reality versus the C929's promise. The current long-haul experience in economy class on most aircraft is, let's be honest, an exercise in endurance. Seat pitch, the distance between your seat and the one in front, has steadily declined over decades. What was once 34 to 36 inches is now often 30-31 inches on many carriers. Recline is typically limited to 3 or 4 inches, enough to annoy the passenger behind you, but insufficient to actually achieve comfortable rest. The person in front reclines, their seat back is suddenly inches from your face, making it nearly impossible to use a laptop, eat comfortably, or simply exist without feeling claustrophobic. The cabin air is dry, humidity typically below 20% compared to the 40–60% we're comfortable with on the ground. This causes dehydration, dry skin, dry eyes, and general discomfort that compounds over hours. Cabin pressure is equivalent to 6,000 to 8,000 feet altitude, meaning your body is receiving less oxygen than at sea level, contributing to fatigue. Lighting is often poorly managed. Bright lights when you want to sleep, darkness when you want to work or eat. Noise from engines, air circulation, and other passengers creates constant background stress. Entertainment systems are hit or miss, sometimes excellent, often glitchy or with limited content. All of this means that even passengers in premium economy or business class often arrive fatigued. In economy, arrival exhaustion is virtually guaranteed on flights over 8 hours. The C929 promises to address all of these pain points systematically, but promises are easy. Delivery is hard. Aircraft manufacturers have been promising revolutionary comfort for decades, yet the passenger experience has often degraded as airlines pack more seats into cabins to maximize revenue. So the critical question isn't just whether the C929's technology works, but whether airlines will actually implement it in ways that benefit passengers, and whether the operational economics of 9-hour flights make sense for carriers. Let's start examining these questions by looking at the centerpiece of the C929's comfort promise, the revolutionary recline mechanism. Seat recline has been a contentious issue in aviation for years. Passengers want to recline for comfort. Passengers behind those who recline feel their space is invaded. Airlines want to maximize density while maintaining some level of comfort. It's a three-way tension that's resulted in everything from knee defender devices to actual physical altercations. The C929's proposed solution is what's being called a zero-gravity recline mechanism, though we should immediately note that zero gravity is marketing speak rather than literal. You're not floating, but the concept is intriguing. Traditional aircraft seats recline by pivoting at a point near the bottom of the seat back. When you recline, your seat back moves backward and slightly downward, intruding into the space of the passenger behind you. Your seat cushion stays in the same position, meaning your body forms an awkward angle that isn't actually comfortable for sleeping or even resting. The C929 system, based on preliminary design information, uses a sliding recline mechanism. When you recline, the entire seat moves forward slightly and down, while the back reclines. This creates several advantages. First, minimal intrusion into the passenger behind you because your seat is moving forward as it reclines. This is the key innovation addressing the core recline conflict. Second, better body positioning because your legs can elevate slightly while your back reclines, achieving something closer to a natural resting position. Third, maintaining personal space around your upper body even when reclined. Similar systems exist on premium trains and some business-class airline seats. The question is whether COMAC can engineer this for economy class at acceptable weight and cost. But let's be realistic about what full recline actually means. In aviation, full recline in economy typically means 40–45 degrees from upright, maybe 50 degrees in premium economy. True lie-flat seats in business class recline to 180 degrees, creating actual beds. The C929's economy seats are expected to offer approximately 45-degree recline with the sliding mechanism. In premium economy, perhaps 50–55 degrees. This is better than typical economy. Most current aircraft offer 30–35 degrees, but it's not a bed. You're still sitting, just at a more comfortable angle. For a 9-hour flight, this matters enormously. Even an extra 10 degrees of recline and the improved body positioning from the sliding mechanism could mean the difference between arriving exhausted or merely tired. Over 9 hours, small improvements compound. Now let's compare to competitors. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner and Airbus A350 both feature enhanced passenger comfort, but their advantages are primarily in cabin environment, better pressurization, humidity, lighting, rather than revolutionary seating. Most 787 and A350 economy seats use traditional recline mechanisms. Premium cabins on A380s and Boeing 777s feature excellent seats, including lie-flat business class and premium economy with significant recline. But these come with significant cost premiums, and the A380 is being phased out, while 777 production is focused on the larger, less efficient 777X. The key comparison is really with the A330neo and 787, the C929's direct competitors. In those aircraft, passenger comfort in economy depends almost entirely on which airline operates them and how they configure the cabin. Singapore Airlines 787 economy is comfortable. Some budget carriers' 787s are packed tight with minimal recline. The C929's differentiation would be if the sliding recline mechanism becomes standard across configurations, making even dense economy layouts more comfortable than competitors. But that's a big if. Airlines will have the final say on seat pitch, recline limits, and overall configuration. There's also the question of durability and maintenance. More complex seat mechanisms mean more potential failure points. If sliding recline mechanisms require frequent maintenance or are prone to jamming, they become liabilities rather than features. The system needs to work reliably for thousands of cycles over years of service. Here's the uncomfortable truth about revolutionary seat design. It's only revolutionary if passengers actually experience it. If airlines configure C929s with 30-inch pitch and limit recline to protect the passenger behind, the fancy mechanism doesn't matter. If premium features are reserved for expensive cabins while economy gets traditional seats, the promise evaporates. The C929's recline innovation is genuine from an engineering perspective, but whether it translates to passenger comfort depends on commercial decisions that COMAC doesn't control. An aircraft manufacturer can design the best seat in the world, but if airlines don't buy it or configure it properly, passengers never benefit. So while the recline mechanism is impressive on paper, we need to remain cautiously optimistic until we see actual airline configurations and passenger reviews from revenue flights. A comfortable seat is essential, but it's not sufficient for true 9-hour comfort. The entire cabin environment determines whether passengers arrive refreshed or exhausted. Let's examine the other critical factors where the C929 promises improvements. Cabin pressurization is invisible to most passengers but profoundly affects how you feel. Traditional aircraft pressurize to the equivalent of 6,000 to 8,000 feet altitude. At 8,000 feet, you're receiving about 25% less oxygen than at sea level. This isn't dangerous for healthy passengers, but it causes fatigue, reduced cognitive function, and contributes to jet lag. The Boeing 787 introduced lower cabin altitude, pressurized to 6,000 feet equivalent instead of 8,000. The Airbus A350 matches this. The physiological difference is measurable: better oxygenation, less fatigue, reduced dehydration. The C929 is expected to match or slightly improve on this, targeting 6,000 feet or possibly even 5,500 feet cabin altitude. Engineering this requires stronger fuselage structure to handle greater pressure differential, which adds weight and cost. But the passenger benefit is real. Humidity is another critical factor. Outside air at high altitude contains virtually no moisture. Traditional aircraft environmental control systems don't add humidity because it could cause corrosion in aircraft structures. The result is cabin humidity around 10–20%, drier than most deserts. This causes multiple problems. Dry eyes, especially for contact lens wearers. Dry skin. Dry nasal passages and throat, which increases susceptibility to infections. Dehydration even if you're drinking water. The dryness itself is a stressor that compounds fatigue. The 787 and A350 use more corrosion-resistant materials, allowing higher humidity, around 15 to 20%. Still dry, but noticeably better than older aircraft. The C929's design incorporates similar materials, targeting humidity around 20%. This might not sound like much, but passengers consistently report that 787 and A350 cabins feel less exhausting than older aircraft, even when seating is comparable. The humidity difference is a major factor. Lighting might seem trivial, but it profoundly affects circadian rhythms and sleep quality. Traditional cabin lighting is simple, bright, or dim. Modern systems like Boeing's 787 and Airbus's A350 use LED lighting with color temperature and intensity control that can simulate sunrise, sunset, and various phases of day. The idea is to help passengers adjust to destination time zones by manipulating light exposure. Blue-shifted light in the morning at destination time helps wake you up. Warmer, dimmer light in the evening helps prepare for sleep. While you're still in a metal tube at 40,000 feet, the lighting does help mitigate jet lag. The C929 will incorporate similar LED lighting systems, potentially with even more zones and control granularity. Whether airlines use these features effectively is another question. Some carriers dim cabins for most of the flight regardless of time zones, while others actively manage lighting to passenger benefit. Noise reduction is perhaps the most overlooked comfort factor. The constant drone of engines and air circulation creates fatigue, even if you're not consciously aware of it. Your brain is constantly processing and filtering that background noise, which is cognitively exhausting over hours. Modern aircraft use various noise reduction techniques: engine nacelles designed for quieter operation, sound dampening materials in cabin walls, aerodynamic designs that reduce airflow noise, cabin insulation that blocks engine sound. The C929 benefits from designing with noise reduction as a priority from the start, rather than adding it to existing designs. Engine selection, likely using advanced high-bypass turbofans, similar to those on 787 and A350, will be inherently quieter than older generation engines. Cabin acoustic design can reduce noise by several decibels compared to older aircraft. This might not sound like much, but decibels are logarithmic. A 3 decibel reduction is roughly a 50% reduction in perceived loudness. Over 9 hours, this significantly impacts fatigue. In-flight entertainment and connectivity have become essential for long-haul flights. 9 hours is a long time. Passengers need distractions, entertainment, and increasingly, connectivity for work and communication. The C929 is expected to feature modern IFE in-flight entertainment, systems with large high-resolution screens, extensive content libraries, and responsive touch interfaces. More importantly, satellite-based internet connectivity for passenger devices is planned. This seems basic, but many aircraft still lack Wi-Fi or offer slow, expensive connectivity. For business travelers, being offline for 9 hours can be genuinely problematic. For leisure travelers, being able to message family, browse entertainment, or simply distract themselves makes flights more tolerable. The quality of these systems matters. A glitchy entertainment system, small low-resolution screen, limited content, or unreliable Wi-Fi creates frustration that compounds other discomforts. Smooth, reliable systems fade into the background, allowing passengers to engage with content rather than fighting technology. All of these environmental factors, pressurization, humidity, lighting, noise, and connectivity, work synergistically. Excellent seating with poor cabin environment still leaves you exhausted. Poor seating with excellent environment is still uncomfortable. The C929's promise is optimizing all factors simultaneously. But again, passenger experience depends on how airlines implement these features. Some carriers will leverage every advantage. Others will disable features to save operating costs, or simply won't train crews to use them effectively. Even if the C929 delivers on passenger comfort, there are significant operational hurdles to overcome for true 9-hour non-stop flights to be viable. Let's examine the realities airlines face. First, fuel efficiency and range. The C929-600's published range is approximately 12,000 kilometers, or 6,500 nautical miles. This is calculated under specific conditions: typical passenger load, standard cargo, optimal weather, and typical fuel reserves. 9 hours of flight at typical cruise speeds covers approximately 7,500 to 8,000 kilometers depending on winds. This is well within the C929's published range, suggesting 9-hour routes are feasible from a pure distance perspective. But range calculations are complex. Aircraft must carry enough fuel for the planned flight, alternate airports in case the destination is unavailable, holding patterns if landing is delayed, and reserves for unexpected situations. Longer flights require disproportionately more fuel because you're carrying fuel to carry fuel. Payload restrictions become significant on range-limited flights. If the aircraft is flying near its maximum range, it may not be able to carry a full passenger load and full cargo. Airlines might need to restrict bookings or cargo to stay within weight limits. This impacts revenue and operational flexibility. Fuel efficiency directly determines operating economics. The C929 uses advanced engines and aerodynamics to achieve fuel burn competitive with 787 and A330neo. But competitive isn't necessarily superior. If the C929 burns even 5% more fuel than competitors on equivalent routes, that cost difference compounds over thousands of flights. Airlines are extraordinarily cost-conscious. A few percentage points of fuel efficiency difference can determine whether an aircraft is commercially successful. The C929 needs to demonstrate not just adequate range, but competitive operating costs. Now let's discuss crew fatigue and regulations, the human element that's often overlooked in aircraft comparisons. Pilots and flight attendants have duty time limitations regulated by aviation authorities. Extended flights approaching or exceeding 9 hours may require augmented crews, additional pilots or flight attendants to ensure everyone stays within legal limits and maintains alertness. Augmented crews add operational costs and complexity. Airlines need to plan crew scheduling, train additional personnel, and provide crew rest facilities on the aircraft. Longer flights also impact crew productivity. Pilots and attendants complete fewer flight segments per duty period, requiring more crew members per aircraft. Flight attendant fatigue on 9-hour flights is a real concern. Providing service to 280 passengers over 9 hours while managing safety responsibilities, dealing with passenger issues, and remaining alert for emergencies is demanding. Adequate crew rest breaks and appropriate crew ratios are essential. From a safety perspective, crew alertness cannot be compromised. Fatigue is a significant risk factor in aviation. Regulations exist to protect crews and passengers, but they impose costs and constraints that affect route viability. Airport infrastructure presents another challenge. Can current airports efficiently handle C929 turnarounds for 9-hour routes? Major international hubs can certainly accommodate wide-body aircraft, but gate availability, ground handling capacity, refueling infrastructure, and passenger processing can be bottlenecks. If C929 operations require specific equipment or procedures that airports lack, delays and costs increase. Maintenance requirements for the C929, especially early in its service life, could require specialized facilities or parts availability that aren't yet widely distributed. Airlines operating the C929 on 9-hour routes need confidence that technical support exists at destinations. Crew basing is another consideration. Airlines need pilots and cabin crew qualified on the C929, located at route endpoints or willing to position there. Early in the aircraft's service life, qualified crews may be scarce and concentrated at main hubs. There's also market demand. 9-hour non-stop routes only make sense if sufficient passengers want to travel between specific city pairs to fill the aircraft. Some routes have year-round demand, others are seasonal. If an airline commits C929s to 9-hour routes with weak demand, the aircraft sits unprofitably or flies partially empty. Competitive dynamics matter too. If a route is already served by multiple carriers with established aircraft, the C929 needs to offer clear advantages, better schedule, lower fares, superior comfort to capture market share. Simply being as good as competitors isn't sufficient for new entrants. Regulatory approval processes can delay or complicate route introduction. The C929 needs certification from aviation authorities in countries where it will operate. China and Russia will certainly certify it, but FAA and EASA certification, required for operating to the US and Europe, involve extensive testing and evaluation. If certification is delayed or comes with restrictions, planned routes may need postponement. Airlines hesitate to commit to aircraft facing regulatory uncertainty. Economic conditions also impact viability. Airlines evaluate aircraft purchases and route decisions based on long-term projections for fuel costs, passenger demand, and competitive dynamics. Economic downturns, geopolitical events, or changes in travel patterns can quickly make seemingly attractive routes unprofitable. The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated how quickly aviation economics can change. Airlines that had invested in specific aircraft and routes suddenly faced entirely different demand patterns. The C929's 9-hour capabilities need to make sense not just in current conditions, but across varying scenarios. All of these operational considerations, fuel efficiency, crew requirements, airport capabilities, market demand, regulatory approval, and economic factors, determine whether the C929's technical capabilities translate into successful service. An aircraft can have perfect passenger comfort and adequate range, but still struggle commercially if operational economics don't work. Airlines are businesses, and they make decisions based on profitability, not just passenger satisfaction or engineering excellence. Let's now consider the bigger picture. If the C929 succeeds, delivering on comfort promises and proving operationally viable, what does this mean for the future of air travel? First, let's examine potential routes and new markets that true 9-hour non-stop capability could open. Beijing to London is approximately 8 to 200 kilometers, well within C929 range and around 10 hours flight time. Shanghai to Paris is similar. Guangzhou to Sydney is about 7,400 kilometers, comfortably within range. Moscow to Los Angeles is pushing limits at about 9,800 kilometers but potentially feasible. These city pairs represent enormous markets. China-Europe and China-Australia routes carry millions of passengers annually. If Chinese carriers can offer competitive or superior passenger experience using domestically produced aircraft, market dynamics shift significantly. Secondary city routes become more viable. Currently, passengers from smaller Chinese cities often connect through Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou to reach international destinations. If the C929's economics support thinner routes, direct flights from cities like Chengdu, Xi'an, or Hangzhou to European or Pacific destinations become possible. This would be genuinely transformative for passengers from those cities, eliminating connections, reducing total travel time, and improving convenience. It could also support economic development in those regions by improving connectivity. For Russian markets, the The C929 opens possibilities for direct flights from Moscow or St. Petersburg to Asian and Pacific destinations without connections through European hubs. Given current geopolitical situations and airspace restrictions, having viable aircraft for alternative route networks has strategic value. The economic impact extends beyond airlines. Improved passenger comfort on long-haul flights could shift consumer preferences significantly. Business travelers make decisions partly based on comfort. Airlines offering superior 9-hour experiences could capture corporate travel contracts currently going to competitors. Leisure travelers increasingly value experience over rock-bottom prices, especially as middle classes grow in Asia and elsewhere. If the C929 enables comfortable 9-hour flights at reasonable prices, it expands the pool of people willing to take those trips. Tourism industries in destinations suddenly more accessible from major Chinese cities would benefit. Currently, European tourism from China involves long-haul flights that many potential travelers find daunting. Make the journey comfortable and more people travel. Airline strategies would shift too. Currently, many carriers focus on hub-and-spoke models, funneling passengers through major hubs for connections. If point-to-point 9-hour flights become more viable and comfortable, airlines might unbundle routes, offering more direct options. This could reduce congestion at major hubs while distributing passenger traffic across more airports. It could also increase competition. Direct flights undermine hub carriers' control of connecting traffic. Aircraft manufacturers face a serious challenge. If the C929 delivers on its promises and captures significant market share in this segment, Boeing and Airbus lose revenue and market position. This would likely spur them to accelerate comfort innovations in their offerings. Competition benefits passengers. If the C929 forces Boeing and Airbus to prioritize passenger comfort more aggressively, even passengers flying other aircraft types benefit from improved standards across the industry. But let's also consider potential limitations and challenges that might prevent the C929 from being transformative. Adoption speed will be gradual. The C929 isn't scheduled to enter service until around 2027-2028 at earliest, and production will ramp slowly. Even if successful, it will take years before significant numbers are in operation. In that time, competitors will continue innovating. Geopolitical factors could limit market access. If Western countries restrict C929 operations for security, economic, or political reasons, its potential market shrinks dramatically. Operating primarily in China, Russia, and aligned countries limits route options and reduces competitive pressure on Western manufacturers. Supply chain vulnerabilities could hamper production. The C929 relies on components from various international suppliers. If geopolitical tensions disrupt access to critical components, engines, avionics, materials, production could face delays or quality issues. Passenger perception matters. Some travelers prefer established brands like Boeing and Airbus due to perceived reliability and safety records. Overcoming skepticism about a new manufacturer takes time and flawless operational history. Early technical issues could permanently damage reputation. Airline financial health determines purchase decisions. Even if the C929 is excellent, airlines need capital to buy new aircraft. Economic downturns, high debt levels, or reduced passenger demand could postpone or cancel orders. So, final verdict. Is the C929 a genuine leap forward for passenger comfort on long-haul flights, or just another incremental improvement? The answer is nuanced. From a technical and design perspective, the C929 represents genuine innovation, particularly the sliding recline mechanism and the integrated approach to cabin environment optimization. If implemented as designed and configured generously by airlines, it could deliver meaningfully better passenger experience than comparable aircraft. This would be a genuine leap for passengers flying those specific routes on those specific aircraft. For the first time, 9-hour flights might be something passengers look forward to rather than endure. But whether this transforms air travel broadly depends on commercial success, market access, operational economics, and competitive responses. If the C929 becomes a niche aircraft serving limited routes, it's an incremental improvement in those markets, but not a game changer. If it captures significant global market share and forces competitors to match its comfort standards, it could transform the industry. The most likely scenario is somewhere between. The C929 will serve important routes, particularly in China and partner countries. It will deliver better passenger experience than many current economy configurations. It will push Boeing and Airbus to prioritize comfort more seriously. But it won't instantly revolutionize global air travel. Change in aviation happens incrementally. Safety regulations, certification processes, airline economics, and passenger inertia all slow transformation. For passengers, the C929's arrival means more competition and more options. Even if you never fly on one, its existence pushes the entire industry toward better standards. And if you do fly on a well-configured C929 on a 9-hour route, you might discover that long-haul flight doesn't have to be endurance. It can actually be comfort. We opened this video with a dream, stepping off a 9-hour flight feeling refreshed rather than exhausted. Is the C929 the aircraft that finally makes this possible? The answer is cautiously optimistic yes, with significant caveats. The C929's technical innovations are real. The sliding recline mechanism addresses the fundamental conflict of seat recline. The cabin environment optimizations, pressurization, humidity, lighting, noise reduction, target the factors that cause fatigue. The range and efficiency appear adequate for 9-hour missions. If airlines configure the C929 generously, adequate seat pitch, full use of recline capabilities, proper crew ratios, high-quality IFE, passengers on those aircraft will experience genuinely superior comfort compared to many current options. But the passenger experience depends on decisions COMAC doesn't control. Airlines choose configurations. Regulators determine approval timelines. Market forces decide commercial viability. Geopolitical dynamics affect access. The C929 provides the tools for comfortable 9-hour flights. Whether those tools actually benefit passengers depends on everyone else in the aviation ecosystem. For aviation enthusiasts, the C929 represents an exciting development. New manufacturers bring competition and innovation. The wide-body duopoly of Boeing and Airbus has lasted decades. A credible third option could accelerate improvements across the industry. For passengers, the message is simple. The C929 might make 9-hour flights comfortable, but it's not magic. Your experience will depend on which airline operates the aircraft, how they configure it, what route you fly, and honestly, some luck. But the fact that we're even discussing comfortable 9-hour flights as a realistic possibility represents progress. 2 decades ago, that seemed impossible. The technology exists. The question is whether the commercial aviation industry will use it to benefit passengers or to squeeze more revenue from the same uncomfortable experience. The C929's success will ultimately be determined by passenger response. If people choose airlines operating the C929 specifically for comfort, that sends a market signal. If they continue choosing the cheapest fare regardless of comfort, airlines will continue prioritizing cost over experience. So the dream of refreshing 9-hour flights isn't just about aircraft design. It's about what we, as travelers, prioritize and pay for. The C929 gives us the option. Whether we take it remains to be seen. Thank you for exploring the C929 with me. The future of comfortable long-haul flight is being written right now, and this aircraft might just be an important chapter in that story. Safe travels, and may your next 9-hour flight, whatever aircraft you're on, be a little more comfortable than the last.